We are both super excited to welcome in right now with us Arizona Senate candidate Kari Lake. Kari, we got a lot to run through with you, but let's start here. I know that it is a national presidential election that's underway, but when you hear Biden want to debate on June 27th and on September 10th, what do you think that debate will be like for Trump and Biden? And what does it tell you that Biden wants debates so soon? Your state, Arizona, is a battleground state. How is the national election playing, and how do you think all that will implicate your race?
Oh, I'm really excited to watch these debates. I mean, it's going to be must-see TV. It's interesting, he acted like Mr. Tough Guy in this video, but when you read the small print, he's got a lot of requirements for that debate. No crowds, because I'm sure he knows he'd be booed off the stage by just everyday average Americans, even Democrats. I'm out in the field. I'm out campaigning right now, and I'm going to towns, and the crowds are increasingly growing with Democrats who are attending to hear what I have to say about turning Arizona around and helping our country. They are fed up. The sky-high inflation is affecting them just as it's affecting Republicans. So I think he's afraid of even Democrat voters at this point. But it's going to be great. President Trump, no matter what the requirements Joe Biden puts on, will win this debate. I'm putting all my money on President Trump, and I think the rest of this country is as well.
Hey, Kari, thanks for being here with us. The way they're structuring this, let's assume that Trump more or less agrees to the laundry list of things that Biden wants. You were, as certainly people in Arizona know, I think a lot of other folks now have come to know this as well about you, a TV news anchor for decades, right? So you've been in the media game for a long time before you were running for politics and political office. What do you think the best way is that this should be structured? I mean, is there even a moderator that you think would be acceptable to both sides that would work in this case? How do you break that down?
It's going to be tough because, so many people, if you say one nice thing about President Trump, they say, oh, you're MAGA and you're not fair anymore. But I think there are moderators who could. I've done debates. I've moderated debates and forums before. And, you have to check your beliefs and your views to the side and just be fair. And I think there's a lot of people right now who could do that. Joe Rogan would be great. You can't say Joe Rogan is a Republican or a Democrat. I think he's truly independent. Scott Adams, I can think John Solomon is a true journalist out there. Maria Bartiromo, she would be great because she understands the economy, and all of the questions that are going to be based on the economy. You need to have someone who truly understands what they're talking about.
By the way, breaking news.
Guys, I think we should have a live audience, absolutely, and maybe you can take some questions from the audience.
I don't think there's any doubt at all. By the way, Kari, this just came from Trump. He says he wants Biden to debate him on Fox News Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. Host would be Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. That's interesting. So that literally just came down from Trump. All right, let's go to Arizona. New York Times, Siena polling, I'm sure you get all sorts of polls that are currently underway in Arizona, showed Trump opening up a substantial lead in Arizona. You are in a super tight race with Ruben Gallego, your opponent out there. Do you think Trump is winning Arizona right now? First part of this question, like the New York Times Siena poll showed. And what makes you think that you can catch Ruben to the extent you're behind, or do you think you're up right now based on what you see polling data-wise?
Well, I saw that poll, and I had a meeting yesterday with my pollster, and we're really happy with that poll. First of all, when you look at the fine print in that poll, they underrepresented Republicans, even though Republicans have a large edge over Democrats. So when you reweight that poll with what the actual voters are and what the turnout will be here in Arizona, we're actually up or tied. But regardless of how you look at it, we're right there in the margin of error. It's going to be close. President Trump, I believe, is up bigger than what the New York Times poll says he's up. I'm on the streets of Arizona every day. And you've got to remember, Ruben Gallego, my radical far-left Chicago Democrat, frankly Marxist opponent, he just spent $7 million and carpet bombed the airwaves with a bunch of bogus ads trying to paint him as a moderate when he is the most radical Democrat to ever run in the state of Arizona and possibly in the country. He actually makes Elizabeth Warren and AOC look almost moderate. He just spent $7 million and did not see a bump in the polls. They are in panic mode. They just announced they're going to put $20 million more in ads. Listen, if they want to flush money down the toilet and run a bunch of ads, people are awake to who Ruben Gallego is. He's voted for the open border policies. He's pro-sanctuary city. He marched to defund the police rallies. He has voted in 100% in lockstep with Joe Biden. He's the reason we're seeing the high inflation rates. He's the reason we're seeing prices that we can't even afford. It's because he has pushed these disastrous dead-end policies that Joe Biden is pushing. The scary thing is he's a Biden mini-me when it comes to policy, but he's 40 years younger. So if we don't stop him right now, we're going to have a guy who for 40 years can bring a reign of terror on this country if he is elected into the U.S. Senate. And that's why we all have to get out, get registered to vote, start talking to our neighbors, make sure they're registered to vote. Nobody can afford to sit home this next election. I feel confident that President Trump will win and sweep Arizona, and I feel confident that I will win. He has endorsed me. He wants me to help him out when I get to the U.S. Senate and getting his America First agenda pushed through.
We're talking to Kari Lake. She's running for a critical Senate seat in Arizona. Kari, I'm just wondering, you mentioned some of the big ticket items, if you will, things like the border, inflation, the economy. Those are all trending against Biden and all the Democrats who go along with him, like Gallegos, your opponent in this race. What about the campus protests and the Biden administration's knifing Israel in the back? Is that nationally? We know that has some real implications. We're seeing it play out in Michigan. Does it have any implications as you can see it in Arizona, whether it's the protests alone or the foreign policy disasters?
Oh, boy, hon. It just shows he's showing our allies that we don't stand by them. And it's going to make things worse for us when it comes to foreign policy. Right now, Biden is a laughing stock. Nobody respects him. Nobody fears him. We used to have peace through strength. Now we have war through weakness. And so on the foreign policy side, it's been disastrous. But let me tell you what I'm seeing on the ground. We've been going to college campuses. This young group of people that are in college right now, about ready to graduate, are waking up to the fact that Joe Biden, not only is he not cool, his policies are killing them. And they're waking up and realizing that we have to get back to a strong economy as they get ready to go into the workforce. The unemployment numbers that Biden released, I think it was 3.4% unemployment. But when you look closer, for young people, 18 to 49, it's 11.1% unemployment. They also recognize that the things that they used to buy 4 and 5 years ago are, in some cases, more than twice as much money right now. So they're looking at themselves entering into a job market that's very shaky for them, not being able to afford the basic necessities, not being able to afford rent, and they are very quickly becoming America First Republicans. So, and plus they're watching all of that chaos on the campus, which they're finding out is funded by a bunch of people who fund the Democrats and Joe Biden and my opponent, Ruben Gallego. The people funding all of that chaos, tearing their campus apart, are behind people like Biden, Ruben Gallego, and other leftists who are destroying our country.
Yeah, I saw the Arizona State frat guys. I'm sure you saw that video cleaning up the mess from the Palestinian protesters, and it went super viral, and I loved it as we saw a lot of people on campus standing up to them. Question for you, Kari. Abortion has been a mess all over the country, in particular focused in Arizona. 1864 law, the Arizona Supreme Court involved, the state legislature, both the House and the Senate, I believe, have addressed this. What is going on there? How much of an issue do you believe, not only statewide, but also for the national election, given how close it's going to be there, is abortion going to play? What are you hearing on the ground, and what's the situation likely to be by the time people start headed to the polls?
Well, I think the Democrats want to make that their issue, but the real fact of the matter is when people can't afford groceries, when people can't afford gasoline, when they're being evicted from their apartment because they can't afford the rent anymore, when we're watching as 12 million people pour across our border and drive down wages because it's cheap labor, and we have to foot the bill for putting them up in housing and giving them services. I think that it takes a back burner. I think it really is on the back burner. We are back to the law that we had for several years, the 15-week law. It was approved and voted in by both Republicans and Democrats, and a Republican governor signed it into law. That is our current law in Arizona. And I believe people, when they get to the polls, will decide on that. We will have the choice between the 15-week law and a Planned Parenthood voter initiative that will pretty much legalize abortion right up until birth. So I agree with President Trump. It's going to be up to the states. The people of Arizona will decide which law they want. And I'm running for U.S. Senate, so this is now in the hands of the state. But I will tell you this, as a U.S. Senator, I will never vote to approve federal funding to support abortion. I will also never vote for a federal abortion ban. I agree with the Supreme Court. It should be left up to the states. But what I do want to say, guys, is that we work with pro-family legislation to encourage families. We're watching our population growth. It's going way down. We're actually going to be at a critical point if we don't start growing families and having babies in this country. And so I want to push good pro-family laws. In Hungary, I had a chance to visit with Viktor Orban about a year ago, and I noticed that they had cut their abortion rate in half, nearly in half, and they never changed a single law. They did it through pro-family legislation to encourage people to start a family and grow their family. And you know this just as I do, that the country is only as strong as our most important institution, and that institution is the family. And right now, the foundation of our families is pretty shaky, and we need to do something to change that. And I'll be the most pro-family senator in the U.S. Senate.
Kari Lake, running for Senate. Kari, we're going to keep talking to you as this gets closer, and this audience is going to help out. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Visit KariLake.com and support our campaign. We're going to bring about some good America First policies to turn this Biden nightmare around.
Absolutely. You know, Kari was just talking to us about the family and expanding the American family by having more and more children, and how in other places even they figured out ways to save many lives. She talked about a voluntary drop in the number of abortions in Hungary, about 50%. This is the battle that we're in here in this country right now as well. Abortion is not illegal in a majority of states, nowhere near it. In fact, a lot of states have had an increase in abortions post Roe v. Wade's end. So there's something that can be done about it to save lives right now. We can continue to have this national conversation, continue to push for legislation at the state level, and we will. But every day there are lives being lost that could be saved. And that's where Preborn comes in. Preborn is the largest pro-life nonprofit organization in the country, providing resources to pregnant women who are making that decision of whether or not to give life to the tiny baby growing inside their womb. It's hard to imagine deciding about the life or death of an unborn child, but that is the decision that Preborn wants to help guide these mothers on. And the way they do this, the way they started out, is just by creating the connection of mother to child with an ultrasound. The ultrasound is free because of you, the pro-life community. When a mother considering abortion meets her baby on an ultrasound and hears that heartbeat, it doubles a baby's chance at life. Every day, Preborn rescues 200 babies' lives, and last year they helped to save 58,000 babies. $28 could be the difference between life and death for a little baby out there. Please join in this fight for life by sponsoring 1, 2, 3, 300. Whatever you have that you can spare will help. Some of you, $28, that's what you're going to be able to give, and that's a beautiful thing. And it's greatly appreciated, and it can help save a life. Some of you are in a position where you're very fortunate. You can give $5,000, $10,000, a leadership gift. And this money is all used for this mission, for this purpose, and it is tax deductible as well. To donate, please dial from your cell phone pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or visit preborn.com/buck. That's preborn.com/BUCK. Sponsored